What's up guys, Belamy Prime here. In today's video we're going to be doing a quick leveling guide for melee players who are new or returning to ArcheAge. And we're basically just going to be doing a as quick as I can make it at least, guide of all the skills that you want to be taking as you unlock them. And we're going to briefly go over how they combo with each other, and we're going to discuss the best way for you to be leveling in a timely manner in order to get to level 50 and then level 55 as fast as possible. Now, the class we're going to be leveling as is a Dark Runner, which is Battle Rage, Shadowplay, and Auramancy. The reason we do Dark Runner is because Battle Rage and Shadowplay are both very powerful for melee skills, and Auramancy is a very nice supportive skill tree. It gives us movement abilities as well as Meditate, which is a very powerful mana regen skill. Generally, we have a tough time as melees leveling because we can't really sustain our mana too well. Meditate really helps with this, so we like to level with Auramancy for Meditate. It's very powerful, and I would like to point out to those of you who are new to ArcheAge or about to be new to ArcheAge, you're not stuck with the class that you choose in the beginning of the game. So if you choose Dark Runner to start off with, you're not stuck as a Dark Runner forever. You can easily change whatever class you are. You just have to go to a Temple Priestess in any respawn point or a skill manager in any city or town, and you can change your skill trees. You can change all three skill trees to whatever you want. You don't have to change to other melee classes. You can change to literally anything. You could change to an archer. You could change to a mage. It doesn't matter. You can change to whatever you want. So we like to take Dark Runner until we hit level 55. Once we hit level 55, then you can start chopping and changing your skill trees. You can change Auramancy for occultism or try whatever you want. So don't feel like you have to follow my guide, like my skill guide here, and then stay as a Dark Runner forever. You can change it once you hit level 55. It's quite easy to level new skill trees. So we're going to be leveling as a Dark Runner, and we're going to talk about primarily our Battle Rage and Shadowplay skill trees first, and how we want to level them. Auramancy, basically, when we're leveling, we only really take it for Meditate. We do like to use Thwart, but we'll talk about that soon. So we're going to jump right in and get into that. Okay, so the first skills that you'll have available to you in Battle Rage will be your Charge and your Triple Slash. Pretty easy first few skills to get a hang of. Your Charge is your gap closer. Will snare them once you hit them to hold them in place, and then your Triple Slash is your spammable damage dealing skill. The next thing you'll unlock in Battle Rage will be your Battle Focus. It's just a 20-second buff that you can pop every time it's on cooldown. Will give you increased melee critical damage and some parry rate for defensive stats also. So this is nice to pop on cooldown. We like to run this while leveling. We like to run this whenever. It's just a very good skill. In Shadowplay, we like to take poison weapons early. It's a nice damage over time debuff that we can apply to enemies. Basically, it coats your weapon in poison for 9 seconds, and then within that 9 seconds, if you successfully attack any kind of enemy, it will poison them, dealing magic damage over 6 seconds. So we'd like to take this early while the magic damage is pretty decent. I generally will run this till about level 20, 25, somewhere there, and then I'll drop it in favor of something else, but we like to take it early. The next thing we'll unlock is our Whirlwind Slash. We like to take this early. Whirlwind Slash will be our highest damage dealing skill early on. It's also AoE. We can see here that when we cast it, we can spin up to 3 different times, dealing AoE damage around us. We can also combo this from our charge. We can charge Triple Slash to turn our snare into a shaken debuff, which counts as a slow. And then we can trip slowed targets with our Whirlwind Slash, which will increase its damage by a significant amount. So very good skill. The next one we'll unlock is our Sunder Earth. Now Sunder Earth is the only casted skill for melees. It has a very small cast time. It's only 0.5 of a second, I believe, but it does kind of feel a little bit clunky to stand still and cast a melee skill, at least for me anyway. We can see it looks like this. It just does AoE damage in front of you in a kind of a circle in front of you. Quite nice. Does a lot of damage, especially to tripped targets, so we can trip using our Whirlwind Slash early, and then Sunder for a nice big bit of damage. Now once we pick up Sunder, we like to pick up Drop Back in Shadowplay. If we read the Drop Back skill, we can see that it grants the Drop Back buff for 2.5 seconds after we use the Drop Back, eliminating the cast time for Flame Bolt, Antithesis, and Sunder Earth. Now the other two don't matter for us, but Sunder Earth is a skill that we have. So if we pick up backdrop here, we can see that we can backdrop and instantly throw a Sunder Earth without having to cast it. So doing this can save a little bit of time. It's also a little bit flashy and it's fun to do. So we like to pick up that early and run that. Now the next skill in Battle Rage that I will talk about is Frenzy. Frenzy basically is a duration buff that resets every time you kill an enemy. When you take damage, it will increase your attack by 80 up to 10 stacks, and every time you deal damage, it will reduce your Fizz and Magic defense by 10%. So essentially, the way this will work is when you have it up, you'll be extremely squishy, but you'll deal a lot of damage. So if you're comfortable using Frenzy while killing mobs, then you can kill stuff a lot faster because you'll have 3 to 4 times the amount of attack, and you'll deal a lot more damage. You'll just be quite a bit squishier, so you have to make sure that you're kind of CCing your mobs so that they're not dealing quite as much damage to you, or at least trying to kill them as fast as possible. So if you pick up Frenzy and you try it and give it a go, it's very strong, so pick it up, give it a go, see how you like it. If you feel a bit too squishy, then just reset your skills down here and drop Frenzy. The next skill we'll get as a melee in Battle Rage will be our Precision Strike. Precision Strike is a very big single target damage skill. It deals increased critical damage by 70% just as a skill on its own, so it does a huge amount of damage. But keep in mind that if you're backstabbing, which means you're attacking your enemy from behind, it has an increased critical rate and increased melee accuracy by 100%, so it cannot miss, basically, which is very useful early on when you don't have 100% melee accuracy. The next skill we like to take in Shadowplay is Wallop. Now, we only run Wallop until we unlock some later skills, but it's very nice for like the 10, 15 or so levels that we have it. So we take Wallop. It's similar to Precision Strike, we just like to use it. It's a nice single target damage skill. It launches 4 attacks in quick succession that deal X melee damage. It's very nice to take. We take that early. The next skill in Battle Rage that we'll unlock will be Tiger Strike. Tiger Strike is another gap closing skill similar to our Charge, except it does not snare, and it can hit up to 5 enemies. So it can hit up to 4 enemies after your first, and it will basically chain between them, and you will land at the final destination at the end of it. So be careful when using Tiger Strike at first, because you can accidentally aggro more than one mob, especially if you're not intending to do that. That can be very bad. So be careful with Tiger Strike, but we like to pick up Tiger Strike. It's nice to use. Now, the next skills you'll unlock at around 40 to 45 there somewhere will be your Free Runner and your Shadow Smite. Now, once we unlock Free Runner, take Free Runner. It's just a 30-second buff that gives you increased movement speed and attack speed. We like to pop this hand in hand with our Battle Focus before a tough fight, or, just to make things a little bit quicker while we're running over mobs. So we take Free Runner. Now, this is all good. Once we unlock our Shadow Smite and we're able to take it, we reset our skills here. We don't want poison weapons anymore. We'll take our backdrop. We don't want Wallop anymore. We'll take Shadow Smite instead. We'll take Free Runner, same as before, and we'll switch into Pin Down. So Pin Down is it has respectable single target damage on its own, but it applies a bleed debuff. Now, the bleed debuff will boost the damage of your Precision Strike and your Sunder Earth. You can see here that they deal 34% and 37% additional damage to bleeding targets respectively, which is very strong in PvP, but also when you're killing tougher enemies, it's good to debuff them with the bleed early and then use your big skills afterwards, right? So keep that in mind. And then obviously we have our Shadow Smite, which is a very powerful single target skill, but it deals no damage if you're not backstabbing your target. So the way this works is, if you're attacking your target from the front, Shadow Smite will deal very, very minimal damage. But if you're attacking them from behind, it does 400% increased damage based on your melee attack. So it does an insane amount of damage when you're attacking from behind. Now, the way we like to use this is when a target is CC'd. So if they're tripped or something, we can Shadow Smite them from behind afterwards. But once we hit level 50, we'll unlock our Hammer Toss. Now, Hammer Toss we like to use hand in hand with our Shadow Smite. Hammer Toss is a ranged hammer throw that we can throw from up to 16 meters away. Actually, I believe it's 15 meters. It's 16 if you're using a two-hand weapon, 15 if you're using dual wield. But about 15 meters away, you can throw the hammer. Once it lands on the target, it'll deal a nice chunk of damage, and it will stun them for a small duration. Now during that stun, if we attack them with Shadow Smite, it will turn that stun into a trip, which is extends the CC, which is really nice. And obviously, while they're stunned, the mob or player, whoever you're attacking, won't be able to move, so you can easily get behind them with your Shadow Smite to attack from behind for that bonus damage, so that's quite nice. Now, we'll talk about Auramancy here real quick, the skills that we like to take. Thwart is very powerful, especially early on. If you pop it just as is, it will give you a buff for 20 seconds that absorbs 5,000 damage from the next instance of received damage. So the next hit that hits you will deal basically no damage to you unless somehow it does more than 5,000 damage. So if it does 6,000 damage, you'll take 1,000 and it will absorb 5,000 of it, which is quite nice. But early on, especially while leveling through 1 to 55, nothing's going to really hit you for more than 5,000 damage in a single hit. So essentially the way this works is it will block the first hit of received damage against any kind of mob. So we can keep this stacked and just pop this freely between mobs and things like that. Or we can see that it stacks up to 3 times. So we can pop it 3 times before a tough enemy, maybe some kind of mini boss or anything like that. We can pop it beforehand to make sure that we have a nice little 3-hit shield on ourselves. So we can see here it goes to 2 stacks. That way it'll block 2 hits essentially, right? Which is quite nice. And the other way that we can use Thwart is for the slow effect that it applies in the AoE around us. So we can see when we use Thwart that it has a nice little AoE, which applies a slow, and our whirlwind slash combos nicely with a slow, applying a trip. So if we walk up to an enemy or jump on an enemy and we go for a Thwart whirlwind, the first initial whirlwind will trip because of the slow from our Thwart, and then the follow-up whirlwind slashes will deal additional damage to the trip targets, etc. So very powerful for a nice little AoE trip like that. We also like to take teleport in Auramancy once we have enough skill points. It's just a teleport. It's a blink in whatever direction you're facing for 15 meters at instant speed. It's very nice, very fun to use. I recommend taking it once you have the skill points for it. And the main draw to Auramancy, which I believe we unlock at level 35, is Meditate. Now Meditate just restores 2% of your max mana per second, and you channel it for 5 seconds, so it just restores 10% of your maximum mana, and it looks like this. So we restore our mana, pretty easy. This helps a lot while we're leveling and things like that, if we're pumping through mobs very quickly at a fast pace, or if you're like sprinting and using up mana and things like that. It's a nice way to augment your mana regen and make sure that you're not running out of mana and wasting time sitting there, waiting for regen and things like that. So Meditate's very useful. If you find that you're not using your mana and you don't need it, then don't worry about wasting a skill point on this, but just know that you can spec into it at any point if you do find yourself struggling with mana. So that's pretty much the skills that we want to have until about level 50. We'll have all of these unlocked at level 50, the ones that we've spoken about. You won't quite have enough skill points to take all of them, so generally, you won't take teleport right away, and sometimes you might not want to take free runner, just because you don't have enough points to have all of them, so you have to kind of pick and choose which ones you want and which ones you don't want. I would say the ones in Battle Rage are absolutely, you want to take them. Don't drop any of them. They're all very useful. But once you hit level 50, between level 50 and 55, you'll get a skill point each level. So you'll get 5 additional skill points by level 55. So you'll have more than enough skill points to take all of these and then some. So once you get to level 55, you'll unlock Behind Enemy Lines, which is a nice gap closer skill with a nice little AoE damage where you land. This can be comboed nicely with our whirlwind slash, as it also applies a slow. So you can use this to, you behind enemy lines onto a target and then whirlwind slash for a nice little trip combo, which is super nice. We can also pick up stealth once you have enough skill points for it. Stealth is quite useful in conflict zones and things like that, where you'll be farming. If you see enemy players or anything like that and you want to hide from them, if you're not comfortable fighting or anything like that, stealth is quite useful. And stealth is just very useful in a lot of different situations anyway, like dropping aggro of mobs and things like that. It's useful in an infinite amount of ways. And this'll basically be what your final build will look like once you hit about level 55. You can chop and change it as you wish, depending on whether you're PvPing or whether you're farming mobs. Obviously, if you're doing PvP, you want Bond Breaker, which removes snares, so any players trying to lock you down with snares or anything like that, you can Bond Breaker that off. And, you know, if you're farming and you're at a point where you're comfortable using Frenzy, Frenzy is really good to help speed up your farming process. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that once you hit level 55 and or level 50, I should say, and you start grinding to 55 and you start grinding like your endgame mobs and things like that for gear and stuff, you want to be using Frenzy. By then you have enough skills to kind of CC between every single mob, and Frenzy helps a lot, not only with mana, but your damage early on too. So once you get to that kind of late game mobs, before you start getting good weapon drops and things like that, Frenzy really, really, really boosts your damage. You'll take a bit of, you know, you'll be a bit squishier and you'll take more damage, but Frenzy helps a lot. But yeah, guys, I hope this was useful in any kind of way. I hope you have a good time while you're leveling as a melee. Melee is probably one of the fastest classes to level with. It's really good for killing mobs, especially if you're killing one at a time very quickly, and especially if you're comfortable using Frenzy. For those of you out there who aren't looking for melee guides, I have a similar video for mage leveling where I go over the skills the same as I did just here. I'm going to be doing one for Archer, and I'm also going to be doing one for Mage. So if those videos are out, I'll leave a link to all of them in the description. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.